Yo, yo, yo. Just after 8 p.m. Eastern time on a Monday evening, you know what the deal is. It's time for Preferred Lines. My name is Joe Idoni. Let's hit the show.
Full 9 iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, golf fans from across the globe, welcome into Preferred Lines, your weekly golf gambling podcast here, presented to you live each and every Monday night on behalf of the good people over at Rotoballer PGA. You want to be a part of a team? The promo code is simple. 5 letters, lines, LINES. That'll get you full access to all the content that I produce every week, picks, matchups, as well as access to all the other great contributors that we have as part of the Avengers team over at the Rotoballer Network. It boils down to like 50 cents a day if you use the promo code. Would absolutely love to have you, and that code will let them know that I sent you. Thanks to the good people there. This show, we're going to cover an incredible finish. I absolutely love the Wyndham Championship, and what the 36 holes yesterday was able to bring us, I thought was captivating. And it ended in just incredible content fashion. We'll talk about that shortly. Then we're going to shift gears to the FedEx St. Jude. First leg of the playoffs is here. The top 70 players in a no-cut event. We will break down TPC Southwind. We'll go through the odds board, give some picks to win. Thank you all for being a part of the show. Listen, if you're here, if you're like my friend Ted, and Ted, listen, I was talking to your boy a few weeks ago. I don't know if you heard my final thoughts segment. I brought you guys up. Yo, 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 my friend. How are you? Hope you and your son are doing well, and you hung with me. Sorry for starting a few minutes late here. Without further ado, let's get right into the show because I've got some things on my chest that I need to get off, and I got the perfect guest to do so. Welcoming back to the show, host of the Golf Gambling Podcast himself, the Twitterless maniac of golf content that breaks down spreadsheets in a way you could never possibly imagine. Steve Schirmer, welcome to the show. Happy that bedtime went smoothly. How are you this evening? Good to see you.
My daughter tried really hard to put me on tilt, and we were talking before the show. It's like they know that I had a special deadline to come on this show tonight. And, normally it goes very smoothly, but listen, 1-year-olds, you can't tell them what to do. They just do what they want to do. So I had to be just patient through it. Finally was able to get through it. So thank you for your patience. Very happy to talk about all the golf that we saw this weekend and coming up. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sure thing, man. I know how that goes. It was my 2 kids' first day back of school today, so there was a little extra excitement, a lot that they wanted to talk about before bedtime, but a lot that I want to talk about with you. Boy, is there a lot of meat on this bone. We had the great Rye versus Gracerman showdown of 2024 that I'm not sure I'll ever forget. Electric 36-hole finish to a Wyndham Championship. Oh, that's chef's kiss right there. We've got Billy Hugs, we've got Scam Young implosions, and of course, Matt Kuchar essentially attempting to hold the entire PGA Tour hostage in Greensboro, North Carolina. Where would you like to start tonight, Steve?
It was funny because I was thinking, because I knew I was coming on this show yesterday, and Gracerman hit the eagle. And, just when you have kids, it's sometimes hard to park yourself in front of the TV. So I was actually out for a walk. I had the earpiece in, and I hear him hole it. I'm like, all right, well, this is basically done. I was trying to think, like, what exactly should we really talk about with this thing? Because it was kind of a snoozer. Like, I know we had the 36 hole, we had the weather delay. It was, sometimes Sedgefield can play kind of firm and fast and kind of difficult. It was really soft and slow. It's like, oh, man, what are we talking about? But then just that last 2 hours, it definitely delivered like it always does. The Wyndham just always seems to deliver a good finish. I don't know. Why don't we start with Gracerman? Why don't we start with that the collapse there? So
yeah, I'm much like you. Pretty much called this thing off. When I saw the hole out eagle, change channel time. Throw on Paw Patrol, kids. This thing's over. and guy goes full quad. Not only, and I kind of caught it right after that, bounces back with birdie. A lot to deal with there for him. Now consecutive tournaments where he's been essentially in it to the final hole. Impressed. Love how he plays fast. Love his attitude. Guy was playing ping pong when he could have had a playoff at the 3M. He was almost late for his second tee time of the day. I don't know if you caught that. He had to run to the first tee box because he was kind of bullshitting around in the locker room, changing shirts. I am getting to know more and more about him, and I enjoy the way that he has sort of handled pressure. I enjoy what he was very candid about in his post-game press conference as well. And I'm rooting for the kid.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's the first half of his year, it's sometimes when you have these Corn Ferry guys come up, it can be a little bit of a rough transition. And what didn't really go all that great the first half of the year, but yeah, he started racking up some pretty good finishes, started playing pretty well at the U.S. Open, and then obviously came through with a good run at the 3M, hit a great shot out of the rough there, showed a lot of confidence doing that.
Yeah.
And, you could kind of see it though, starting a little bit around the turn where he was miss a lot of drives right at that point, but he was kind of getting away with it. He was drawing some pretty lies there. And then finally, though, it just had the one bad bounce. And then it just snowballed from there. And this is unfortunately kind of what happens with some of these young guys who just don't have a lot of being contention under their belt. Ends up making a pretty, poor mistake with the layup there. It also seems like the caddy didn't really step into to kind of calm them down a little bit. Seemed like they just kind of kept going through their motions and process. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed at that point. Obviously made a great bounce back birdie, but then three putting from like 3 feet after that. So, you got to feel bad for the kid. Pace of play was really slow too. You just mentioned he likes to play fast. Maybe that got to him a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's good at least that he is inside the top 50 now. He's actually, in the playoffs here. So maybe he can bounce back a little bit, secure his spot in the signature event next year and kind of make this a little bit of a distance memory. But yeah, it's tough to bounce back from that stuff. And, I kind of hope that he can do that.
So you mentioned, Sedgefield playing pretty soft and a little bit easier than we remember. The final score was kind of where we usually expect it. I got to say, if I was wearing a hat, hats off, commendable. The job by the agronomy and grounds crew team at Sedgefield Country Club deserves a giant pat on the back for getting this tournament in. The amount of rain that course took in and the pictures that were coming out on like Tuesday, and I know Pat and Rick were there. Like, I don't even know if this thing's going to happen. That course looked awesome. There were really no puddles. The greens were rolling, I thought, adequately fast. Some of those slopes that you're familiar with, like on the 18th hole there to that back pin, how you can kind of wrap it around that top slope. And I think even Cam Young hit one that looked like it was going long of the green and came all the way back. That's the stuff that you love about Sedgefield. So the fact that they were able to get the course to play like that, able to attempt to do everything they possibly could, Steve, to get in 36 holes on Sunday, and a 5.5 hour round almost ruined it. And they had a guy in the final group that teed off essentially into the group in front of him, which I thought I'm okay with. Like, let's get it in and then stick a tee in the ground in the dirt. I couldn't believe he did that. I was angry about that, and I shouldn't be because it just doesn't matter. But that was stupid. That was classless. That was entitled. That was terrible to watch. And I hated every second of it.
I mean, listen, what do you mean? He got to protect the T12 finish there. There's a $50,000 difference between if he bogeyed that hole and if he actually, parted, or even the $100,000 jump. Listen, we know Matt Kuchar, he loves his dollars. We know he is a little bit cheap, maybe when he's tipping the waiters and everything. Obviously, he's cheap tipping the tags. I totally expect it out of him. He is just trying to, make sure he squeezes all that bank, cash out of it. But no, I completely agree. It would just, the whole sequence makes no sense between between the alleged, what happened, which we can get to a little bit, and then his official explanation. it doesn't compute. You know, if you're trying to set an example, if you want Grayson to maybe to stop playing, why are you teeing off at that point? You know, it almost seems like I forget who it was, but I think it was at the 2016 PGA at Baltusrol. Some guy just took it for the team, and he was like plus 3 or 4. He wasn't going to make the cut, but he wanted his final group to just hit out, and he just hits a complete duck off the, but it just, you know, because he gets everybody going. I thought that's actually what Kuchar was trying to do, because he hit such a horrible tee shot and he went really quick. But apparently, I guess he was pretty perturbed about not being notified there were people in the fairway, and then he just threw a hissy fit. Apparently, that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, you know, we all think that Kuchar's this gee golly shucks guy, but there's a lot of stories off the course about him just being a complete asshole. And this is another example of it. And it just, it's too bad. I mean, like I was telling my co-host that if, God forbid, if Kuchar was ever a captain of the Ryder Cup team, I'm probably laying 70 mortgage bets on Europe. I don't think that guy can be a leader in men. I just think there's a lot of bullshit in his closet too. It was unbelievable that he just waited an entire day, made people come back for what? So he could secure a T12 finish. It was just dumb.
There are a ton of assholes out there. The worst of the bunch are the Matt Kuchar types, right? Be abrasive, be cocky, be arrogant, be in your face, and accept it. He's so passive aggressive about it that it bothers me. His explanation made no sense. He sits up there with a smile and thanks all the media for coming back. Bullshit. Apparently he said, according to Doug Bell, who was with the group, that he was very upset that they allowed him to tee off and didn't tell him that the group in front of him, and basically said, the guy, you know what, you're not going to do your job, I'm not going to do mine. Now, that isn't an exact quote. That was kind of what he said, what he inferred from the situation. But at any rate, it didn't make sense for Grayson for him to have to deal with that. First of all, Aaron Rye is standing in the fairway about to hit the biggest shot of his entire life. And you tee off into the leader on the 72nd hole, about to hit the biggest approach shot of his life. Then you're going to throw a tantrum like a 2-year-old, like my child would, with another guy, another young kid in his first year on tour trying to win. And you're this guy who's, you know, top 15 on the all-times earning list. Between what happened with the caddy, between what happened with the Sergio video, between all this stuff, look, whatever it cost the PGA Tour to come back today, if it was $5,000, if it was $20,000, if it cost them $100 to come back today, I want an invoice, rubber stamp from Ponte Vedra, and sent straight to the Kuchar household. Like, you are such a jerk for doing this to these people. The lack of self-awareness and entitlement. I hope that I'm ready to, honestly, it's insane that I'm even saying this, but I'm ready to make definitive future Ryder Cup statements based on what I saw at the Wyndham Championship. And I would have never said this 10 years ago, but Billy Horschel, good guy now. Give me Billy Horschel now. The fact that he's rooting on Aaron Rye, the fact that he's hugging people, what he's shown me in the past month, make that guy a captain someday. Make that guy a vice captain this year if he doesn't play his way onto the team. If Keegan even looks in the direction of Matt Kuchar, it screams everything that is wrong with this team and what was wrong with this team this last time, and it's throwing it right back in their face. Get him out.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. It was good of Horschel to, because that's another guy as well who definitely can put his foot in his mouth a lot. He's very opinionated and vocal, and he can definitely get dunked on based on some things he said. But we're probably gonna talk about him a lot tonight. We're gonna go to another golf course that kind of plays a lot similar to what we saw at Sedgefield. But you just mentioned it. Maybe some good karma coming his way. Kind of rooting on Aaron Rye. Really elevating him, and that definitely is a good trait to be a captain. I mean, he's never been on the Ryder Cup. But it's sometimes a good thing about, outside the box here. And, I don't think you necessarily need Ryder Cup experience in order to be a good captain. I think you just need to, not make stupid pairings and, just have, some good energy about you. But yeah, I think Horschel definitely could be a good fit. And, I do love the way he's playing lately. I love his attitude. This is his season as well. He always seems to kind of peak around this time, and maybe we can get that again out of him this week.
staying with the Wyndham for just another minute, I think there is this time bomb on the PGA Tour right now, and a literal time bomb that the shot clock era is coming. I think that should be sooner rather than later. Rip off the Band-Aid. Let's start 2025 with it. It will literally take 3 weeks for players to adjust, and we'll never think about it, and we'll never have to deal with 5.5-hour rounds again. There will be penalties. There will be complaints. It'll all happen in a similar vein to what happened with baseball, and the game and the television coverage and everything about the professional sport of golf from a fan standpoint. And ultimately, as it trickles down from a player standpoint, will be better off. How far off do you think we are from that? Do you think it ever happens? Do you think we're within the next 5 years, or it's on the hot list?
I don't think it's on the horizon. I mean, it seems like if these guys are incapable of whatever's going on with trying to negotiate with the public investment fund, bringing all that together, it just seems like nothing is really going to get done. Like, I've heard a lot of great ideas. I think there was an article a couple months ago about some of the changes that might be made to the FedEx Cup and like maybe an elevated series. And it all sounds great, but then you get these guys in a room, their self-interest, and just nothing gets done. And I would love to see a shot clock. Do I really want to see Aaron Rai grind over an 18-inch putt for 50 seconds like he was doing, going through his routine? No. And I'm glad that Ian Baker Finch actually got on the broadcast and, passive aggressively call these guys out and say, well, that's why
he was ready to go home.
Yeah. It's why these are 5.5-hour rounds. And then there was kind of like an awkward pause. Like, well, it's true. It's like a producer kind of shot him a look saying like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, no, this is completely true. And, I know Immelman has also gotten in these guys, with the slow play. It really is ridiculous at this point. And, you actually listen to some golf psychiatrists, and they actually tell you that it's actually better to, just stop thinking about your process, just pick a target, trust your instincts, and just hit it. And, I feel like if they make these guys just do that, they'll probably play just as good. But, it's like I just said, though, it's hard to make changes with the PGA Tour. It's hard to make changes with these guys because they're just so set in their ways and they just don't want to really change. So unfortunately, I'm taking a glass half empty approach to this. I would love to see a shot clock. I think it would be great. I think it's, kind of like we mentioned earlier too, like we both have kids. It's hard to just devote an entire afternoon just grinding, watching golf, especially in the summer when we want to be outside and they want to be outside too. It's just, but if you can make it kind of compact, that would definitely help. But yeah, I don't see that happening. Unfortunately, I wish it would, but
I don't think in the moment they realize how slow they are. And I think that the majority of players, I could be totally off base on this, but I think if you put it, I think there are a lot of things that are tough to pass through that player board. I think if it's proposed in a way that is being able to be effectively officiated and that the players' trust will be reliable and consistent, I think most of them would be for it. I think the tour would be for it. I know it's almost like a unanimous win-win for everyone, but you mentioned that things change at the pace of a snail on the PGA Tour. So it wouldn't be surprised to me if it takes infinitely longer than it should. Before we get to TPC Southwind, I'm sure you have some takes on that course. Man, dude, so this weekend I put up the scorecard for Castle Pines. I didn't even really give a take on it. I was just like, I didn't say this is good, this is bad. All I did was like, this course is going to be 8,100 yards. It's set to be the longest course in PGA Tour history by 250 yards. And I'm getting crushed. Do you not understand elevation, you idiot, and all this stuff? It's effectively going to pay 7,000 yards. Whatever people's opinion of it is still a little bit jarring to see 8130 on a scorecard. Have you done much digging into it yet? Do you have an idea of how this course may play? Just because I trust your opinions on golf courses as much as just about anyone.
To be honest, I have not dug too much into it, but I did hear about the ludicrously long scorecard yardage. But yeah, I mean, the ball is going to fly a lot farther at mile elevation. So I think those calculations are probably correct. It's going to play a lot shorter. It's like how Chapultepec, that's about 3/4 of a mile at elevation too. And even though that was like a 7,300-yard golf course, played like it was 6,500 yards. You see guys just cutting corners, driving the green. So yeah, it's a lot will be made of that, but with the elevation change, ball is going to go a little farther. But yeah, I look forward to digging into that next week. It's a new golf course we haven't seen in I think a long time. So it'd be nice to kind of add something new to the rotation here for the BMW. Looking forward to breaking it down next week.
Yeah, it's a new course. Always nice to see something new on the PGA Tour. We only get maybe 3 or 4 new ones a year. Let's talk about an old one in TPC Southwind. Okay, the golf course in Memphis, Tennessee this week, built in 1988 at the hands of Ron Pritchard. Got a little help from PGA Tour players Hubert Green and Fuzzy Zeller. I think the defining characteristic of this course is the challenge of the course, which is essentially avoiding the water, the narrow fairways, and the inconsistent, tricky, albeit not long, but hard to predict Bermuda grass rough. Very tiny green surfaces as well. This tournament, I will give a shout out. I like this tournament a lot. And I mostly like it because of 2 things. I think it has a great closing finish of holes that create drama, that can create potential for eagle, also potential for double bogey, which I always find from an excitement level, less of an architectural standpoint, but from a fan excitement level, always intrigues me a bit. And nod to them for partnering with the St. Jude Children's Hospital. They do a fantastic job. The majority of the proceeds from this event go to support kids with cancer. All about that. Awesome moments from the PGA Tour and some of the video content that you will see between players and young kids going through the hardest time of their lives is very heartwarming stuff that you'll see this week on the scorecard. Good varying degree, I think, of holes in terms of length. That makes it a little bit different. I know some people are critical of this tournament being in the playoffs and this golf course. I wonder sort of where you stand on that, Steve. I know our friend Andy doesn't like it here. I think, and I value his opinion a lot. I think it's more so about just this particular golf course than where it's located. I don't think this is really the Southeast to me. It's Bermuda grass. I think you can play it anywhere this time of year, and it's going to be hot as shit. I look today, the difference this weekend between Miami, Florida, and New York City is 6 degrees. It's hot everywhere. It's not about you can't go to Florida this time of year. It's not about you can't go to Texas this time of the year. I think you can. If it's 91 or 94 degrees, suck it up. Go out there and play golf for 4 hours. I don't feel bad for you. Go and play the course. You're top 70 in the world. You're playing for millions of dollars. It's hot everywhere. I think it's about this course selection just for this particular spot in the playoffs, and being so detrimental for a very small, minute miss that you can end up on one of the 11 waterways that border this course. What do you think about TPC Southwind?
I think I fall somewhere in the middle of it.
Yeah.
There definitely are a lot of distractions. I used to be that, kind of being a little bit influenced by some of the Andy Johnson types where, there's a lot of low hanging fruit in order to criticize about this plate. Obviously, I think for me, the biggest aversion is because I've known about just how this tournament has fit into the PGA Tour for the last decade or so, and how FedEx has really been pulling the strings about how they want to showcase the Tour Championship. They want to showcase the FedEx Cup, and they want their brand everywhere. And they essentially, stole this tournament first from Bridgestone, which, I'm not a big fan of that golf course. It's very,
Firestone, you mean?
Yeah, Firestone. Yeah, Firestone. So, going back and forth, very tree line, but, it had a lot of history behind it. And FedEx decided, hey, listen, we don't like the fact that we're the week before the U.S. Open. We don't get good fields. We want to get better fields, and we're paying the big bucks here. So they take that tournament, and it was always funny when, they show highlights of Golf Channel of Tiger Woods playing Firestone, and they always refer to the FedEx St. Jude at Firestone there. But they did that, and then COVID killed the WGCs, and then FedEx said, well, you know what? Why don't we make it part of the playoffs at this point. And, to make this golf course an anchor site, I don't know. I liked, and maybe it's because I like TPC Boston. I like that golf course. I thought it always had pretty good finishes, and we take it away from Boston. A nice market there. We took it away from New York City. A lot of really good golf courses around there too. So it just to make it an anchor site for I think it's fine golf course. I think you made a lot of good points. At the end of the day, this is an entertainment product that we're watching. And obviously, when you throw a golf course with a lot of water in it, with inconsistent Bermuda rough, it can definitely create some good television. We've seen a lot of great finishes here. I mean, how many playoffs have we had the last couple of years? They had that really crazy finish with Harris English and Bryson imploding on the back nine in the three-way playoff that ensued after that. And, I think there's a lot of people want to talk about obviously you gotta be really accurate. You think about some of those types of guys, but once we've introduced a really good field and a stronger field to this place, these guys adjust. And we've seen guys who are maybe a little longer, you consider bombers, adjust off the tee and, still do very well. Obviously, you have Brooks Koepka as a former winner, Dustin Johnson. Yep. Well, I think there's a wide array of guys that can do very well. I don't think there's a particular type, but I think just the way to go about the golf course, you got to play it one way. It's basically target golf, hitting a lot of the middle of the dog legs, keeping it out of the rough, because you're hitting off of Zoysia fairways. It's like hitting off a driving mat, and you got really small greens. So hitting it from the fairway is very important. I think one thing people think, because they hear about a lot of water, they think, oh, well, there's probably a lot of water off the tee. Well, really, it's most of the water's by the green. There's a couple holes, I think number 12, there's water with the drive, obviously 18, but most of the water's with the approach shots. So you got to hit really good approach shots. Obviously, I just mentioned him from the fairway is important. But yeah, there definitely be a lot of car crashes at this place, particularly on hole number 11, where it seems like there's a lot of exciting finishes. So I think it's fine. Obviously, you can make fun of it with, it playing through an office park for most of the front nine, but it has provided good finishes. So that's really all that matters as far as an entertainment product. And we have a great field here. So
good finishes, great field, highly competitive and consistent. It is not like the rest of the TPC courses. It's not minus 30 under par like a Craig's Ranch or what we saw at TPC Twin Cities. Hell, even TPC Sawgrass, which is thought of as, maybe the hardest of the bunch, they're getting to 20 under par there. I think Scotty won this year at 20 under par. Since the superintendent, let me get his name here just so I can give him a little shout out, because I looked him up earlier. It is Nick Bassans. This is his 9th year as the head superintendent at TPC Southwind. The course has never gotten to 20 under par since he's been the superintendent. Been extremely consistent, which I think is commendable, particularly when you're talking about mid-August and difficult conditions to prep a golf course for in the heat. The last 5 years, the average winning score has been between 13 and 16 under par all 5 years. It's right in that range. We have an idea. It's been very predictive, which I like from a course standpoint, and I appreciate from a setup standpoint year over year as someone who tries to, do golf content. It's nice that it's very predictive. The greens you mentioned, the water does protect a lot of them. There's like 75 bunkers out there, some of them more difficult than others, but 4,300 square feet on average, that's microscopic by tour standards. Very tiny, very, very fast. Despite being small, you will see 3-putts because they are some of the fastest champion Bermuda grass greens that you will see all year on tour. Narrow fairways, penal rough, tons of water. To me, it boils down to ball striking and tee to green play. And if you factor in some other courses that do feature a good bit, over half the holes with water in play, I think it'll give you a good, decent stat model to rely on. Are you prioritizing distance or accuracy off the tee? What's more important to you?
Like I just mentioned, it's hard to gauge how it is off the tee because, there are a lot of holes where you got to club down. And when you're looking at driving stats, a lot of that is with guys with the driver. So sometimes it doesn't really apply. I'm kind of looking more conceptually as far as like, okay, I'm trying to make comparative golf courses where maybe a longer hitter can adjust and do well in those types of places. But, honestly, though, it's because there's so much trouble with around the green. Iron play really is, it's obviously great, important with every tournament, but I really honed in, especially between 100, 200 yards. There's a disproportionate volume of shots between 100 and 200 this week. I also look at bad shot. Whenever I go to these golf courses too, where there's a high degree of penalty, especially with like bad approach shots, I look at the bad shot percentage as well, because I just want to make sure that, even if you're not the most precise, like, are you just not getting in major trouble? And that's, if I see a guy with a pretty high bad shot percentage, that's when the double bogeys start piling up. And that's when I can kind of maybe disqualify them from, picking out race, because that can be the difference between a win and a loss. So yeah, just kind of conceptually thinking about like guys who are pretty good at these shorter kind of plotter target golf courses where ball striking matters. One thing I didn't really focus on too much though was around the green play. I noticed with some of the winners coming into this tournament where, sometimes that can be the difference between winning and losing, but Will Zalatoris, that wasn't really his strength coming in. Lucas Glover, definitely not his strength coming in. He had a good tournament around the green last year, but that wasn't what he was doing very well coming in. Abe Answer, that was one of the weakest parts of his game. Even Koepka, the year he won, was not scrambling very well. So, that helped me
not very good around the greens. He's played well here.
Yeah, so that helped me justify a couple guys that were pretty good in some of the other categories and match some other comparative golf courses that I've seen them do well at. Obviously, good Bermuda putting is a plus as well. I'm kind of anticipating maybe some guys who struggle with the flats to get them on Bermuda might change their fortunes a little bit. So yeah, that was basically kind of the recipe this week for me.
Yeah, I'll run through these real quick. So I looked at some comp courses, basically not so much along the lines of hole design, but courses that I think the predominant challenge is water. So I took Southwind, Le Golf National, TPC Twin Cities, Scottsdale, Sawgrass, Bay Hill, PGA National, top 10 players in tee to green performances. Number 1, Scotty Scheffler. 2 is Siwoo Kim. 3, Hideki Matsuyama. 4, Justin Thomas. Maybe a little eye opener there. I wasn't expecting to see. 5, Rory. 6, Shane Lowry. 7, Xander Schauffele. 8, Tony Finau. 9, Will Zalatoris. And number 10, Aaron Rai, your defending champion at the Wyndham Championship. Before we get into the board, let's talk about Aaron Rai. Lucas Glover went back-to-back. Aaron Rai, on paper, looks like a majestic course fit once again. He is one of maybe 5 players in the field that I have top 10 in approach and driving accuracy. In awesome form, confidence from winning. We saw someone do it before, 40, 45 to 1. I don't mind that bet on him going back. Are you one of the guys that thinks candle blown out, there's a certain degree of luck in there, spinning it, the roulette wheel has to land on 0 twice? I don't think it can happen 2 times in a row. Or will you go back to a guy who just won? Does it not matter?
Well, so hand up, by the way. If I was on Twitter, I would definitely be on Cold Take Exposed today, because I went on a little spiel on my show, and I make some good picks and I'll cop to some kind of bad takes. And you know me as a big agronomy guy, and sometimes that can betray me. And one thing I noticed about Rai coming in, well, he's like, all right, we got these great performances, but a lot of northern strains of grass. He's a European guy, never really been all that great when you put him in the Southeast. So I'm like, all right, maybe the Bermuda's going to slow him down, and oops, egg on my face. Yeah. But otherwise, though, the profile was great. Great iron play, trending putting. I didn't think that was sustainable, but it ended up happening. And listen, did Aaron Rai kind of get handed that tournament on silver platter? Yes. Even when, he had it kind of by the balls, he could take it. He it was one of the easiest holes in the golf course, the par 5, kind of made a mess of it. Horschel showed him the line on one of those putts, and he decided to go like a foot outside of it. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is typical Aaron Rai stuff. And it just took Grayserman just kind of really gagging and, to hand it to him. And sometimes that's what happens. But one other thing too, and I was trying to think about it, was, like these guys have had, especially some of the top players, have had a really busy season. And unlike some other years, we just had the Olympics, which was phenomenal. But, that was kind of taxing. It was an emotional tournament for a lot of guys. A lot of guys really wanted it because there wasn't a lot of prize money. So they put a lot of, emotional investment into it. And we also have a bunch of guys who just got handed an $8 million check for sitting on the sidelines last week. And Scotty Scheffler and Xander got handed $6 million. So, like, what's the difference with them between, like, winning this thing and adding more zeros to their bank account here, and if they're already well ahead in the FedEx Cup. So yeah, like I kind of weighed a little bit too. You know, guys kind of played recently, coming in good form. And, you know, obviously coming off a golf course with similar agronomy, the fairways are different, but the same types of greens. Yeah, I mean, could Aaron Rai continue this hot streak on a golf course that values a lot of things at Sedgefield? Sure. Maybe I'm just stubborn and I don't want to go back to the well with that, but I get it. Like the profile of it completely fits. So if you want to go 40, 45 to 1 in Aaron Rai, I think I like a couple other guys around that range a little better, but you know, it makes a lot of sense, and maybe he suddenly is a Bermuda guy at this point. So, yeah, based on the current form, you know, if you want to go back to him, go back to him.
Let's hit the top of the board. The betting board for the FedEx St. Jude. Here we go. Right at the top there, the king, Scotty Scheffler, plus 375 is the best current price available on this odds checker grid that we're looking at. Xander Schauffele right behind him at 8-1. Then you got Rory at 10. You've got Colin Morikawa at 12s, although I will say that I've seen 14s out there still available. Ludwig 22. It seems like a kind of a wild price on Patrick Cantlay. I'm not ready to get behind at 25-1. Fleetwood at 25-1. Those are your players inside of 30-1 on the odds board. Steve, have you bet any of them? And if not, why?
Well, I mean, I think we first should start with Scotty.
Yeah.
Up here. So I single bullet him at the Olympics. And just because we went to a golf course that was narrow with a lot of water, and
I know
we've seen him do it at Sawgrass, we've seen him do it at Harbour Town. Like that was the thing
Bay
about
Hill.
Scotty. At Bay Hill. Like that was the thing about Scotty is like after he won the Masters, it's like, okay, we're going to go to Harbour Town. You know, we're going to bring in a whole bunch of guys in the mix. He's not going to win. Like, you know, it's a bunch of parity. And then he ends up winning that tournament. That just changed the game for everything. And then he wins Travelers.
Oh,
like,
God.
Now we're coming to a similar type of golf course. Like, why? I know the answer. I know why I'm not going to back him this week. But conceptually, though, we've seen him do it at this type of golf course where high degree of penalty from missed fairways, lots of water, where, you know, hitting from the fairways really important, especially with these Zoysia fairways. I mean, like the best iron player in the world, hitting from the short grass a lot. Tee to green, like it seems like a slam dunk. Are you like, is that enough for you to go with the without Scotty market this week, or do you have something to maybe thinks maybe he's not going to run into a little bit of trouble here?
Okay, so I am going to my book that typically has the without Scotty market does not have it posted yet, which is not uncommon. That usually comes out on Tuesday. I'm waiting for that to really make a play at the top of the board. I'm scared as shit that the guy is going to win again. Like you mentioned, all the courses that are like sub 7,300 yards with a little bit of water as the primary defense. Heritage, Sawgrass, Bay Hill, Travelers, you throw Muirfield in there as a decent bit of water on some holes. He wins them all. He's averaging 308, hitting 70% of fairways, which is 10% over tour average. And the approach stuff is godlike, averaging 1.7 strokes gained per round. It's unbelievable, the run that he's on. It's a historic run. And as someone who wasn't intimately as glued to professional golf during the peak Tiger eras in myself, I saw them. I appreciated them from afar, but I wasn't knee deep in it like I am now. It's the best season I can ever remember someone having. I think he's probably got a 30 or 40% chance of winning this. Look, if they played this thing out 3 times, like if it was something, if we're in a sim and they run the sim 3 times, he's winning one of those. I'm still not going to get behind it and bet plus 375. It's just not how I structure my betting cards. It's not how I ever have. So if it happens, I have to continue to tip the cap and say, what an incredible year. And you got by Scotty Scheffler. And it's kind of just what the mode that I've been in most of this season. When you do things like that and go single bullet Scotty, that's your only bet of the week, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I never do it, But I just looked at Lake Golf National, and I remember how it played in 2018. And it wasn't going to play. It obviously didn't play quite as difficult, but the same things you need to value there. And I just decided, look, like I've seen this movie before. And I looked at what he was priced at for that tournament. And I was like, okay, well, he's basically the same price of what he was at Travelers. It's a better field of Travelers. Same price of what he was at Murphyville. It's a better field there. Like half the field in the Olympics was basically dead at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't I just bet Scotty? So it was just a gut feeling. And I didn't want to mess around with the without Scotty market. I just said, Scotty's going to win. And I was, ruin it, on Friday. I was like, this is why I never single bullet. But then Scotty just did his thing on Sunday. And it was nice to be on that side of it for once, where Scotty just ruins everybody's day. It was nice to actually be, with Scotty at that point, because I've been on that end a couple times this year and it's not great. But I think for me, and I know he's won Albany and I know he's won Bay Hill, and that's Bermuda. It's Tiff Eagle. But that rule's a little truer than what I think this Bermuda does. This one, I feel like, you're more of a Bermuda guy than I am. It's grainier. It's a little more the traditional Bermuda. And he seems like he's had a little more trouble on that type of Bermuda before. And it kind of, with Scotty, it goes with how he is on the greens. He had trouble at Pinehurst. I'm not saying these are those greens, but, he had trouble at Pinehurst. He had trouble at Troon with those greens. And, if he's had trouble on this type of Bermuda, he's never putt well here before either. Yeah. So that was enough for me to say, I'm not going to back Scotty. I'm not going to single bull him. I'm not even probably going to go to the without Scotty market. It's just, if he beats me, he beats me. But yeah, it definitely terrifies me that this is the same type of golf course he's won how many times in the last 2 years. So, but yeah, I think the putter's going to get to him and he won't win. And look, I mean, he just got handed an $8 million check. And he could sit this tournament out and still be comfortably ahead in the FedEx Cup. So maybe the guy's not motivated. Maybe he's going to be in cruise control. I don't know, wishful thinking. But
he can walk into that living room now with a tartan jacket and a sweater vest and a green jacket, and now a gold medal. Get you some of that, Meredith. 0 top 10s here, though, for what it's worth. So maybe a little pause for concern if you want to build a case on another player. And the player I might be coming around to is Colin Morikawa. So consistent. It's astonishing the statistical numbers he's been outputting without getting that victory this season. Number 1 in fairways, top 10 in approach, top 10 off the tee. The ranges of outcomes in terms of when you look at the approach proximity ranges that I'm looking at, like you mentioned, 100 to 200 yards, 75% of shots come in from that range. So are you a good wedge to middle iron player? He's phenomenal. And he actually raises slightly his tee to green baseline on courses with a lot of water, which isn't surprising given his fairway, but wins, has a couple of Bermuda wins under his belt. I think the concession shares similar, probably agronomy to what we're going to see here. Just playing so well. And when you look at something like Castle Pines next week, that despite the elevation appears to me from my early research to be bombs the fuck away. And then you get to East Lake, where he's going to be starting behind Xander and Scotty a good bit. This feels like the last hurrah of 2024 for Colin Morikawa to get that monkey off his back and capitalize on what has been a terrific run of form and get a win. So if I can get 14-1, I'll pay attention to the minus the top 3 markets, but there he's going to be the favorite because you take out Rory, Xander, and Scheffler. I'd probably just rather take him 14-1 and hope to slay the Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at him too. It was a little rich for my blood, that price. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things we said about Scotty as far as like how well he drives the ball. I mean, they use that QI10. That thing's just a cheat code. And I was going to say earlier, I was talking about Tiger Woods. You were talking about Tiger Woods. And actually, I think it just goes to show how great he was considering the type of equipment he was using compared to you can hit it anywhere on the club face here. The ball's just going to go straight. So, you kind of wonder if you gave all this equipment to Tiger, he'd never lose. Probably. Yeah. But yeah, I completely agree with you as far as just listen, it's positional golf, accuracy, great iron play from 120 yards. That's Colin Morikawa. You talk about the motivation factor too. He hasn't gotten a win since the Zozo. He's been very close this year. I think ultimately, though, I don't know if I trust him on Bermuda fully. I know he's got that concession win, but the putter's starting to go a little bit with him too. It was going really well for a while. It's starting to go a little bit with him lately. And I was hoping for a little bit better price because he was really popular at Le Golf National and just didn't play all that good. I am going a little lower down the board as far as my first outright, but I'm not going to hate on a Morikawa picks. Definitely fits this place. He's been really good here, good at all the comp courses. So I think that's a fine pick.
Yeah, my first pick at the moment is a little further down the board. So I talked about it earlier. I ran a pretty, I put a lot of time into a stat model today. I ran it. The numbers checked out. Aaron Rai was second. I took him 45-1. I don't know, Steve. I just pulled the trigger on that. But the guy that I feel a little bit better about was a 40-1 on actually Tom Kim. I've been kind of riding this form. I had him at the Travelers. I had him at Le Golf National. I think that he's in such a groove off the tee right now where he has confidence and he's working with a one-way miss, and it's barely a miss. So I think that confidence and ability to swing away with driver, like you saw Aaron Rai yesterday take driver and Aaron Rai is not a long player, but when Aaron Rai takes driver on holes that other guys are hitting hybrid and long iron off of, he all of a sudden it's such an advantage for him because he hits that low cut and he hits it 305 yards. And is that going to dominate on a bomb and gouge course? No. But when you're hitting 75, 80% of fairways and you can groove one out there 305, it's highly effective. And I think that Tom Kim sort of has that skill set. The approach play has been trending, I believe, in a positive direction in terms of what I'm sort of looking for out of Tom Kim. It comes and goes with the putter. I do like that aspect of it kind of because I know the streakiness is there and you're betting on the upside at a 40-1 ticket on hoping you have one of those weeks where he gains 2.5, 3 strokes putting, which is not out of the realm of possibility. He's done that 1, 2, 3 times in his last 8 rounds. Now, there are some rounds there where he gets bludgeoned with the flat stick. But I'm going to take the upside there. Another guy who's crushing it out there and hitting 70% of fairways and gaining, every round on approach. Tom Kim's the one for me. You mentioned you have a guy in this range, Steve. Who you got?
Well, it actually was Tom Kim. So
Great.
You basically just summed up everything I talked about. I mean, I think the only thing I'll probably add here is, look at the bad shot percentage, one of the lowest in this field. So just hits solid, consistent shots between 100 and 200 yards, does not get in trouble a lot, going to be hitting a lot from the fairway. Talk about how the putter can come and go. Well, he's won at Sedgefield. That shares the same agronomy on the greens as this place. And, he just hit the ball really good at Le Golf National. Was a little disappointed with how that went, but maybe he's a little bit motivated to come into this thing and get a big time win. I mean, he's been a very popular outright bet for the last, year or two. And he's only got the Wyndham win and he's only got TPC Summerlin. And obviously he lost in the playoff there at Travelers, but he can get in the mix. He's proven to do it. So 40-1, I went with that. Going back a little bit up to the top though, I did bite on the Ludwig number at 22. A little bit disappointing Olympics, but he hit the ball good. He's struggling with the putter right now, but he's been really good on Bermuda in his career. Look at some of these positional golf courses with, they're a little shorter, like Harbor Town and Sawgrass, and he's won Sea Island. Data Golf actually has that, one of the good comp courses. Pebble Beach, a shorter golf course as well. They see some crossover between types of guys do well there and here. Finds a lot of fairways, and his form coming in kind of reminds me a little bit of what Zalatoris was doing before he finally had his big win. Obviously, Ludwig has a couple wins under his belt, but we're waiting for the big one. Yeah, and he's been kind of lackadaisical lately. Maybe this is his time to get a signature win, get a big boy win under his belt. And he's definitely got the tools doing. He's been good at some other golf courses. So Ludwig and Tom Kim, both on my card right now.
Let me ask you something. When you mentioned that you were looking at bad shot percentage, how are you calculating that? Like where's the line drawn on what's a bad shot?
So I'm not calculating it.
Where are you getting that from?
So Data Golf actually has this information about,
I
think it's the percentage of shots where you lose, I think, a half a stroke or more to the field with the shot.
Got
And, it's very small. Like, I'm looking at like a poor bad shot percentage is like 6%. Like, it's not huge, but
Okay.
like it's still double the
That's a
frequency.
2-stroke swing.
Yeah, but it's double
at
the
his score.
frequency of a guy like Morikawa or Ludwig or something. So and that's I've been dabbling a little bit with more of those like really in the lead stats, and it's kind of helped me just more break ties. Or
Yeah.
so, especially because
like
that's
that.
just what it comes down with the outright. So if you want to know how more about that's calculated, go to Daily Golf, get a subscription. But yeah, that's where I've been getting those numbers from.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Moving down, you start to get Sung Jae 45. I mentioned Rye Connors is there. Horschel's 50-1. Cameron Young, what a Sunday for Cameron Young. I don't know what to do with this guy. I'm not someone who's ever bet him, and I would say if you are, you need to carefully evaluate. Just he doesn't seem to have it, Steve. And he looks incredibly grumpy. He's got no personality. Nothing about him has resonated with fans, with fellow players, seemingly with his own caddies. If you're a believer, I think you got to cast him to the wolves and just wait until he gets it done in the next 1 to 5 years. 50-1 is probably a price I'm sure some people will talk themselves into. I'm out on Cam Young. Justin Thomas, where are you at?
I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing about Cam. Have you seen those Omni commercials with him?
No, I have never. He's in a commercial.
He's the official spokesperson for Omni Resorts, and he just talks in that monotone style. And I'm like,
that's the new PGA thing, right? In
yeah,
Texas?
I think so. Yeah. So Omni has a bunch of golf courses around the country, but yeah, Frisco, they got their hands on that. But yeah, he's their official spokesperson. And I'm like, how is this making me want to play golf?
Terrible.
This guy.
He looks so angry.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it too. Like, what exact? Because we've been waiting for the Cam Young win. Like, what? I am even having trouble thinking of what even type of golf course I would want to bet him on. Like, it doesn't seem like he has like a particular like golf course where he would just kind of favor him. Because I've seen him kind of pop up a little bit like a Harbor Town. He even made some noise at Sedgefield, but then he like implodes, or you would think he would be good on like a bomber track with wide fairways, and it doesn't go well for him. Like I don't know. It's so hard to like, because when he does pop up, it seems like it's pretty out of nowhere. He's very inconsistent. So for me, it's just like
it's randomly an open championship at St. Andrews. He's all of a sudden there. Like,
yeah, it seems like bad weather with rain. It seems like it's the only time I really want to bet Cam.
When everyone else is down to his level of grumpiness to be out there.
Exactly.
He's got some sort of conditions or outside force has to bring the rest of the field to his mental state, and then he can be uplifted.
Exactly.
We're forever out on Cam Young till he wins. Okay. Thomas, Thigala, Burns, Scott, Lowry. These are intriguing names to me. I have not pulled the trigger on one of them, but I think I may at one in this 50-1 range. Anybody, just take anybody above 50-1. Who's the next guy you got on your card right now?
All right. So I did bet Horschel. I bet him last week at Wyndham because I have a very checkered history with Billy at the Wyndham, where actually,
was it the Herman? Was it the Herman year?
So that was our first show ever. Was the 2020 Wyndham, and we both bet Billy Horschel. And I had to proceed to watch him blow it to Jim freaking Herman of all people. But then last year I had Billy Horschel as well, and he was coming off a good finish at TPC Twin Cities after just a horrific year. And he was one shot back and just had just a dreadful Sunday where he couldn't make a putt. And he didn't even have to do much either, because I think Glover only shot like 2 under that day. So I went back to the well with Horschel because he was playing so good, and it looked great to the start. And then he just did what he always does on Sunday at Sedgefield. It just goes in kind of neutral at this point. But, I mean, he's playing good. He's got a good history at TPC Southwind. We mentioned before that it seems like he really enjoys like the FedEx Cup and like raising his game. Obviously I think, Tour champion 2014, made a little bit of a run in 2018 as well. So he seems like he's motivated, playing good on a golf course that fits his strength. The iron game is starting to trend up for him as well. Putt's really good on this champion Bermuda too. So I went back to him with 51. I thought about JT though. It was funny that you actually mentioned he was good as model, but you look back at some of JT's best finishes recently, it's been on these kind of positional shorter tracks, the Harbor Towns, the Travelers, and it seems like he's kind of close because he's got off to really good starts at the Scottish Open, the Open, two places I would not expect JT to even show up because I think he's a little bit of a house cat. Although he took advantage of some really good conditions at the Open before he faded.
He's showing it in rounds though, which is like the first sign you want to see. Like guy shoots round of the day. Okay. He's played better than 156 other guys this day. Has not been able to come close to putting it together for 72 holes, but I think he did it at Travelers as well. He did it at the Open. He's done it on courses with a lot of water. There's a lot of water on Quail Hollow. There's a lot of water at PGA National. I don't know. I was just saw him and I'm like, there's no way I would have thought about taking him until I saw a little bit more on some of the numbers. And I'm like, maybe. But you made some good points on Horschel there. I may come around. Well, one guy for me, Steve, I'm going to go back to this week at like triple the price. It was 80-1 earlier. I'm kind of a believer now in coming around on Davis Thompson being quite a good young professional player. I'm going to throw out the two starts in Europe because I think he's very unfamiliar territory for him going to the Scottish and the Open. His PGA Tour resume the last 2 months is quite incredible. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starts, he has 6 top 20s, 9th, 2nd, 1st, 12th. In there, 2 seconds and a first. He's gaining a ton off the tee. He's got a hot putter right now. He's hitting fairways. Confidence is at an all-time high. I was hoping that he would sort of make a bit more of a run on Sunday at the Wyndham, but like it was his day at the John Deere, it just wasn't his day there. But T9 at the U.S. Open, second place Rocket, first John Deere, another 12th at the Wyndham, playing solid. Building confidence. I believe in his long-term viability as a player who is highly accomplished and now has confidence, which is a scary combination. And I think this would be a big-time event for him at a big number, 80-1. Just these other names in here, I have no confidence in their form. Like I don't believe in Harmon's form. I don't believe in Clark. I don't believe in Spieth, Fitzpatrick. I just don't think it's going to come out of nowhere for one of these guys right now. And I feel like the signs are there for Davis Thompson, even though he is a much less accomplished player. The current form is, the big differentiator for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how, he broke out in a stage, I think. He's a really good amateur. But
with Rahm, right?
Well, so I was thinking before that at the Winged Foot U.S. Open when he was still an amateur, and he actually played very good. That's when he started to get on the radar. And then at Amex, he almost beats Rahm. It hits the pin.
Head-to-head with Rahm. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is a 25-year-old young stud.
This is like peak Rahm too. Peak Rahm run.
Yeah, this was last year, and it was like, okay, this is going to be the next big guy. And I wasted how much money? A bunch of tournaments betting on it. Oh yeah, I definitely he became my little new toy, and I finally gave up to him. It seemed like that just completely all his confidence went away, but he has all the tools. He does hit, he's a great driver, long and straight. He can get out with the putter. He's pretty good on, he can, he's a Carolina guy, I think. So, or Georgia guy. Yeah. So, can play Bermuda.
Yep.
I think the only thing with him, and, maybe this has to do with he just went to Europe. The iron numbers just aren't quite as good as what I would want them to be at this place.
Yeah.
But we're not that far away from really good form with the irons. So, maybe getting him on this type of golf course might wake him up. So, but yeah, honestly, I think just based on kind of who's in this field, I think I agree with you. Once you get past 60-1 or so, there's very few names that I would really want to consider outright. I think that's probably more positional market. If I miss out, I miss out is what it is. But yeah, like, a guy like, Thompson would be on that list. Even, a Sepp Straka, who hit the ball really good at League Golf Nacional. I had him for a top 10, and he just missed how many freaking bunny putts
I know.
at that golf course. But
He hit
he's
it
got a
pretty
second
good here. Was it last year? 2 years ago, second.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have won this thing because Zalatoris hit it on the bulkhead on 11.
Yeah.
And I
I
was holding the Zalatoris ticks. I'm like, oh, well, that's blown. And then Straka hits it into the water there. So he should have won that one. He just won PGA National. Like, he's done well at Harbor Town. The iron play is still really good with him. So that's probably someone I'm going to consider positional. Some guys that did well last week that played Sedgefield. Ben Griffin's hitting the ball really good, had a good Sunday, good Bermuda putter. That's somebody that maybe could surprise for a decent finish here. Eric Cole seems like he's starting to hit the ball a little better now too. And starting to, putt a little better as well. So he's kind of on my radar for positional. But yeah, as far as outrights, I only got those three in Ludwig, Tom Kim, and Horschel. I can fit somebody else probably in the 30 to 60 to 1 range. And I'm still kind of mulling that over. But probably some of those other guys, if you want to take a little bit of a stab at the long shot, maybe some of the, those are some names to maybe consider.
Yeah, Straka, Cole were two of the long shots. Not someone that I'm going to bet outright, but a couple of guys I'm interested. Potentially Straka there, Ted, if depending on how I structure my card at the top. But I do, like I mentioned, already have Thompson. One of the ones I think is interesting, maybe for DFS or in a top 20 market. I don't know. Austin Eckroat played pretty well last week. Obviously won at PGA National, 6th at the Wyndham. Gained a lot of strokes off the tee. Is starting to putt it a little bit better. Highly accurate player off the tee. Another guy, a 70%er in terms of fairways and regulations. Just Austin Eckroat gets slaughtered around the greens. He is quite terrible at chipping, which I think is somewhat de-emphasized on this course based on your sort of course analysis. So that's a little bit uplifting there. Probably someone you can get a nice top 20 or top 40, maybe even money top 40 on Eckroat. But 6,300 in DFS too, dirt cheap if you want to go heavy at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely another guy. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, like this is kind of a weird part of the schedule where, you got a lot of guys who haven't played since the Open, so they got a little bit of course rush. You got a lot of other top guys playing a lot of really big tournaments. They're coming to the end. Maybe they're just looking ahead a little bit, saying, okay, just get me to the Tour Championship. I'll coast. And you got Austin Eckroat and some other guys played Sedgefield last week coming in with some momentum. Yeah, I mean,
we 3M, they're playing. They're playing a lot of golf.
Yeah, and we've seen some really kind of weird results here, some kind of odd leaderboards. Like I think last year the final group was Lucas Glover and Taylor Moore. A couple of years ago, it was Brendan Todd leading this tournament coming in. So, I mean, obviously we got Abe Answer we got Abe Answer as a former winner. So, this thing can definitely be kind of weird, especially, I mean, it is going to be hot and maybe some of these guys are just going to kind of take it easy and, kind of coast a little bit. Looking forward to get out to altitude in Colorado in next week. But yeah, I mean, I think, definitely you get some good positional plays from a few of these guys. I'll definitely be adding some of those to my card. Eckroat is one of those guys too.
Steve, thank you for your time tonight. Much appreciated and great to talk to you. As always, I appreciate you squeezing me in between infant bedtime. So very important to me. You are the best, dude. Tell everyone what is the schedule this week that you have coming out content-wise with our boy Capper in the chat. Golf Gambling Pod, DFS, and betting show, both out when? Out now, out later tonight?
Yeah, so we got Matt Gannon doing the DFS show. He's been doing a great job. He's been killing it this year, by the way. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Content god, and he makes great picks. So he's got his DFS show coming out. We will have our betting show for the FedEx tomorrow. We might do a live show. They're in Greenbrier. I don't know. We'll see. But we might squeeze that in tomorrow too. So we might go back to back with double content tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, we're on Sundays and Tuesdays on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Go check out my written content. Go check out our podcast. Follow us on Spotify or Apple. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Put out free content there. And yes, it was great joining you tonight. Thank you for your patience. Great conversation. Seems like we're kind of on the same wavelength with some picks as well. So hopefully we can get a winner this week.
You're the man, Steve. We'll talk soon, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
All right, gang. Great to talk to Steve Schirmer as always as we wrap up the 2024 season. Big show lined up next week. Already started digging into a little bit of Castle Pines, and then may have something special planned on the Rotoballer PGA Network for the season finale. Not a huge fan of that event. Lacks a little juice. We're going to try to bring a little additional flair to it, possibly. No promises. Thank you for checking out the show. Thumbs up on the YouTube page. Like the Twitter tweet, X tweet. Tell a friend about the podcast. This has been the Preferred Line Show. You guys are the absolute best for joining me. Leave me a comment. Tell me who you think is going to win the FedEx St. Jude. Good luck. I'll catch you guys next week. I'm out of here. Joe Idoni. Preferred Lines is over. Peace.